Welcome back, everybody. This might be a little boring of an episode, but it's a lot of elbow grease and some sophisticated tools. What we're trying to do is just knock the junk off and get it, down to, I wouldn't say bare metal, but to the basics of the machine. We've got 100+ years of crap basically stuck to it. Doubt it ever got washed. So we're just trying to get things unburied, I guess you could say. Something we have done is I've taken the magneto off and cleaned it up, mainly to make sure that it's getting spark on all four cylinders, and it has. Found a few minor problems with it that I was able to fix, but the last time we had these engine covers off, and I put them back on so the debris we scrape and clean off doesn't fall into the crankcase. And this was the gasket that's behind these plates here, and it's about 3/16 to an eighth, a little over an eighth thick. And I didn't have enough gasket material to make 4 of these, but what I did have was a piece of rubber conveyor belt, and so I just cut one out and stick the rubber side to the block, and that'll be a good enough temporary gasket sealer to get us by until I get some material ordered. So we did do that, and if you'll come over here, I'll show you the magneto. Thing's pretty heavy, but we got the magneto all cleaned up. So got it firing, cleaned the points, all the electrical contacts, got everything freed up, impulse working, all the trip levers. This is a K&W HK series magneto. I think most of these were on tractors from like 1900 to 1920 maybe. I'm not sure. I'm not a magneto expert by any means. This is the first K&W magneto I've ever worked on, so it's pretty interesting on how it was made. But basically, when the engine is turning, this rotates, and you trip the catch, and as it comes around, it catches on this big ring. And I doubt I can turn it by hand, but I got it spring pretty tight, but this would turn when you're starting, and it would go to a certain point and then trip really fast to get you a spark. And then once it trips, it's going to go up, and that lever's going to catch it so it can spin. So as this spins, these magnets and this armature, we'll call it, inside, create electricity, and it goes through the high voltage side and the low voltage side. And so this transfers power down to the center, and this is where your rotator button, we'll say like in the distributor, will distribute power to cylinders 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then your contacts are down here behind this cover. Let me turn it where you can see it. The contacts are behind this, and this spring holds it down like that. And you would advance and retard here, I believe.
Is that how you adjust how much spark it gives?
Not necessarily how much, but when.
Oh, timing.
Yeah, timing. So when you mount this to the engine, you put your cylinder on top dead compression stroke. And so you want it to snap and give you a spark about 3 degrees off the center. So as the cylinder's just barely coming down off this combustion stroke, you've got gas in the chamber that's compressed, and that's when you want your spark. The spark ignites it and forces the piston back down. That's what gives you the power. So that's when you want to time it to that. And then these are marked 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now the motor's not necessarily, each motor has a different firing sequence, so it may be 1, 3, 2, and 4, or it could be 1, 2, 4, 3, or any combination. They went to the point to where they put the firing order actually on the casting of the motor. So the firing order of this engine is a 1, 2, 4, 3. So when you hook your plug wires up, you can't just put cylinder number 1 to number 1, number 2 to number 2, because it's not going to jump. This rotates in here when it distributes your spark. So because our firing order is 1, 2, 4, 3, this will be cylinder number 1, number 2. This wire will go to cylinder number 4, and this wire will go to cylinder number 3, even though it's marked 3 and 4. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, each engine has a different firing sequence. So it depends on how the crank is made and the cam and the timing of the valves, and there's a lot of variables into that about when they want what cylinder to fire at one point. So you have to pay attention to that, because if you hook it up in the wrong sequence, it's going to fire at the wrong time and just won't run, or it'll run poorly. But you want good spark, because if you got gas and you got compression, the only other key ingredient is spark. So as long as you have those three things, the engine's going to run. Anyway, that's all I have to say about the magneto. Well, folks, this is a vac tank here, and this whole purpose is to take pressure off the intake manifold to suck gas up in here, and there's a float inside. I thought I had this one fixed, but I don't know if you can see it. There's a spot right back here that stays wet all the time. So apparently on the back side, which you can't see, there's a little tiny hole allowing it to weep. So we're gonna pull that off and see if we can address that. Yeah, once I got it off here, it's definitely got a pinhole in it somewhere. I don't know if that little spot right there is it, but or it may be right in this area. But anyway, that's the original leading, I guess, looks like. Oh no, it's not. That's been repaired years ago all across the back side. But what I'm probably gonna do is, I really don't know what this material is. I'm guessing it's lead. I don't want to do anything to destroy the integrity of the tank, so probably what I'll do is take it apart, pull the float out, and JB weld the inside. JB weld, I've had done tests in the past, like on cast iron lower radiator. It's blown me away how well it's held up. So no more than this tractor is probably going to get run. I'd rather make the repair on the inside than the outside. So let me get it apart and I'll bring it back. Well, I got it apart, and if I get the light just right, you can see where it's sweeping out that little tiny pinhole evidently. So what I'll do is clean it out good on the inside here and work on that seam down there. You can see where I had to put a little JB in there before because there was tiny pinholes and I was afraid to weld it or braze it. It would just eat the whole bottom up. But anyway, we'll keep patching until I find a better example somewhere and replace it.
You want to talk a little about vac-tank? We hadn't discussed that much.
Okay, the vac tank. Yeah, the vac tank is actually mounted on the other side, but you've got your fuel tank here and you got your carburetor here. Now this carburetor is slightly lower than probably what it's supposed to be because I had to make this adapter. And this isn't the right carb, but it's the closest one I had that would work. So the purpose of the vac tank is it's made by Stuart Warner. You can probably see on that casting. But basically it's a mini gas tank. And inside this gas tank there's a float. So it uses vacuum off of the intake manifold to suck gas up into this small tank, and that float will shut that off, you know, so it doesn't just keep filling up. And the whole purpose of this is to provide a reservoir of gas to your carburetor no matter what the level of the fuel is in the tank. So for instance, if you were going up a hill where your carburetor was higher than the level in the fuel tank, because it's a gravity system, you wouldn't get fuel to your carburetor and the engine would die. So what this does is it guarantees there's a reservoir above the carburetor at all times to feed gas to the carburetor. So it doesn't matter if you're going uphill, downhill, sideways, if it's full or low. So that's what that does. That's the whole purpose of that vac tank. And you see these on automobiles and trucks and tractors.
Are they still used on modern engines today?
No, they don't need them now because you got fuel pumps, high pressure fuel pumps.
When were they introduced?
Well, fuel pumps came about probably late 20s, early 30s, a lot of Caterpillars, like our Caterpillar 40 that you've seen a lot of videos on, it's got a mechanical fuel pump. So every time the engine rotates, there's a lever activating the fuel pump. So as long as the engine's running, it's pumping fuel to the carburetor. So it eliminated the vac tank. They didn't really go to electrical fuel pumps until the late 80s, early 90s, and that way, as long as you've got power, it's pumping fuel consistently. The mechanical fuel pumps relied on a diaphragm that would create the vacuum. So anyway, we're going back to 1918 here. So they used, basically the pistons were an air compressor. So as the pistons move up and down, you have compression in the engine. So they would use some of that on the intake because you're sucking up gas to siphon basically gas out of the fuel tank into the vac tank.
So the point of today is to get the engine block and all of that looking as good as you cleaned up parts on the vac tank and
yeah, magneto. It doesn't have to look quite that good, but like this side we haven't done anything to. So other than scrape off where the firing order was, but I see dirt daubers down there. You know, there's all kinds of grease and dirt just caked up in here. You know, you can't even read Holt on the engine cover. You know, I'd like to at least be able to see that. So like this area, you know, we're not going to have to do anything to. It's just a rusty cylinder jug. This we're not going to have to do anything to. But all the dirt that's caked up in here, you know, I'd like to get rid of that. Just because it'll look better, number one, and number two, people can see the details of the motor. Right now it's just a dirty piece of metal. But you know, like around the water pump and all this area, you know, I just want to get the dirt out because we will have to get in here and replace this radiator hose more than likely. So I don't have the belt pulley on it yet, but everything turns. So
all right, well, let's jump into a time lapse of us working on it.
Yeah.
Alright, so I apologize for the bad angles, but we've gotten about an hour of scraping done. We've got all of these rods cleaned up, all of the metal here at the bottom. Got the magneto base plate and the shaft cleaned up. We could spend another hour or two cleaning all of this up, getting it absolutely perfect, but we do plan on doing a light pressure washing on it. But as Dad said in the beginning, just not enough to get it paint ready. We still have the governor and all of the metal around it to do. We've got everything under the foot pedals as well as at the front of the transmission box and the other side of the cylinder jugs. This side shouldn't take as long as the other just because there's not all the valves and stuff to do. It's easier to get to and there's more flat surfaces. So we just need to clean up the base of these jugs, the water pump and all of the metal surrounding it, and these plates. So this shouldn't take as long, but with everything we have left to do, probably another 2 or 3 hours of scraping. So without further ado, let's get back into that time lapse. Hey, Papa.
Hey there, number one grandson. How you doing today?
Good. What are you working on?
Well, if you look at the seat, it's in kind of sad shape, and I don't know that it would hold up to us riding on it right now. So I thought it would be best if I remade the seat. So what I've done is taken measurements off of it, and I've made a frame here, including half lapping the joints like the original. You can see the joint right here where it was half lap. You can see that joint right there. You know what I mean by half lap, the piece on top, which is evidently gone. But
Just like this right here.
yeah, just like the bottom. So I've made the original, you know, the original way. Now at this point in time, I am using some modern screws. The original screw was this slotted screw, and where it shows I'm going to use the slotted screw, but on the places they're going to be hidden, I'm using Phillips head screws because they're much better. They're modern, and of course they're longer. They go down into this centerpiece. On the original one, this centerpiece that holds the top and bottom apart was just bolted into the end. You can see that there. It was just bolted into the end. See those bolts?
Yeah, right here.
Now that was bolted in. So in this case, I've glued it and I've screwed it. In other words, if I took this rail back off, you would see one screw in the middle going down into that, and it is glued. The next piece that I'm working on is this center divider, and that goes right here in the middle of the thing. Now, you know, I got to rework it, but it goes right there in the middle. This actually goes on the top side. See, the top rails are wider than the bottom rails, so that's
How come this gap here is
Well-
bigger than the gap down on the bottom?
well, it's just because the board's broken in two.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Now I've got a piece of white oak. Now on the bottom here, if you come and look at the bottom, you can see how bowed this is and rotten and everything.
Yeah.
So it was made out of, looks like pine. Well, I'm making the new bottom out of white oak. Now white oak is the same wood that you make whiskey barrels out of, because it won't rot. You know, water can't soak into it. And the reason they make it in red oak, you can see the veins, the whiskey would leak out. And of course, if it gets wet, water would get into the middle of the red oak and it eventually rot. White oak, it won't rot. So I'm making the bottom, and I'm making it a little bit thicker because you can see how it bowed over the years. Now, I'm not sure what caused it to bow. There is an oil pan that goes right here, which is sitting over there on the floor. You can see that oil pan, tank rather, not a pan, but a tank, that gets bolted right here. And so when I get the bottom on, then I'll bore this hole, and then these holes right here where there's a strap, they're up yonder. There's a strap that holds that tank in place. And because, again, this is the original outside of the board, but it's, you know, bad shape. So I have this pine that came out of an old building off the farm I grew up on. So this pine, I'm sure, was felled 80, 90, maybe even 100 years ago. So this is very old wood. And so we're using that. And of course, it's about the same coloration. So this is going to be the outside skin. So this is what you'll see when you see the box sitting on the tractor. So that's what I'm working on. I'm not sure what these little fixtures were for. If I can get these bolts out, then I'm going to try to save these two pieces, although I'm not sure what they were for, but we're just going to try to keep that because it was original. We'll have at least something original out of it, but the rest of it was just so rotten. You can see how it's just falling to pieces. There's no way in the world to salvage this old wood, you know. So that's where I'm at. I've planed the white oak bottom. I've got to put the bottom on, and then I'll rip this to width so that it covers up the bottom and the side and everything, cut it to length and that sort of stuff. So
now, won't you be able to tell the color difference between this frame and the wood and the white oak?
No, the white oak will get covered. It gets put on the bottom kind of like this, and then that board is going to cover this up.
Okay.
So you won't see it unless you get down and look up. And we, of course, could put a stain on if we wanted to get the color down where it looks like it does. Now, on our 60 tractor, I took some old burnt oil, motor oil. That's what I stained with. And that gave a real good antique finish on it.
You plan on doing that with this one, or are you just going to put it together and see how it looks?
I'm going to put it together and see how it looks, and then take a piece where I rip this off and put it on there and do a test with it and see how that makes it look. And if it looks good, in other words, I'll do all this, because again, we want it to look as original as possible.
You don't want the seat and everything stand out against the rest of the tractor.
Right, yeah. So we want it to look antique also, and it's being made out of old wood, you know, that what you'll see. And of course, we've got to come up with some type of a seat cushion, and as soon as I can do a little more research and see some pictures of what they had, because this particular thing, I don't see any evidence of a seat back that you lean up against, other than you can see right here on this edge where some screws stuck up. And so maybe that held some piece of wood back here that went up and was the back of some sort. So I got to do some research on some pictures to see if I can see what kind of back they had.
I've noticed that all of the operator controls are offset to one side of the tractor. So where is the cushion seat go? Does it cover the entire frame?
I think it would cover both, because you'd have an operator and then a rifleman, what do you call it on the stagecoach, riding shotgun. So I would think that there would be room on it. Now again, nothing's there unless this piece went all the way around. You can see this piece goes over that way. So I'm assuming that the cushion is the full width. And of course, remember, in 1918, people were smaller than they are today. So there would be plenty of room for at least two people, could be three people sitting on it, you know, because you had an operator. And again, it was used for pulling big artillery in the theater in World War I in Europe. So they would be an operator and some other people with him, because he had to hook it up. He couldn't hook it up by himself. He had to have a helper.
Yeah.
The guy, the soldier riding shotgun, well, he might, while they were still pulling, get up there and lubricate it while it goes. So anyway, that's what I know at this point in time. I'll show you a little bit more later on when I get a little farther along.
Awesome. All right, Dad, how you coming?
Coming along pretty good. Just having fun, scraping away. Wanted to know what an archaeologist felt like. That's kind of what I feel like today. Because you couldn't read any of this before we started. And we're slowly unearthing little details. All right, so we just finished up our work day. Getting ready to call it quits and go get a bite of supper. But as you can see, we've cleaned up this side of the engine a lot better. You can actually read the castings real good, and we've got the debris out from the oil lines, and it's looking pretty good in my opinion. Something I did notice is right here where the crank handle is, there looked like the base of an oiler was there. Looked like that base. And so I took it out and put an oiler in it. And then I realized, why is there an oiler there? There really shouldn't be an oiler. So I broke out the book, and it turns out there's a locking type mechanism. It looks similar to the base of the oiler, but it's a little button, evidently. And a pin goes down and holds the tooth of the gear. And I guess that keeps that from spinning when you're not trying to crank. It's the only thing I can come up with. So we're missing that piece, but I'll either have to source one, which is probably slim to none chance, or have to make it. So anyway, on our part search there, that's what we'll have to do. Diddy's working on the seat, as you saw, so he's making progress with that. All right, so we got this side looking a lot better. Other than maybe a real light degreasing wash, I'm happy with how it turns out. We've cleaned up around the governor and all the linkage areas. We've got the best we can. Really can't do any more by hand other than pressure washing. So I don't want to wash it too much, but some areas you just can't get to. So I think that's what we'll do before we try and crank it, is give it a little bath. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this segment of our journey to getting this Holt running, and we'll see you real soon.